Sun lights up the sky and hummingbirds do fly.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session of the Science of Successful Living. I'm Asar, your moderator. I pray things are well. Before we jump in this morning, I just want to get a voice check, a sound check. For those of you who are tuning in by way of the Zoom room, go ahead and let me know if the audio quality is good by giving me a thumbs up or saying good. And for those of you who are on the Zoom room, I mean, not the Zoom room, the YouTube channel, you can type that in also. And then we're going to get started. So I see quite a few people have joined us on the in the Zoom room. Welcome this morning to all of you who have joined us in the Zoom room, and we'll be moving through this conversation this morning, giving you an opportunity to engage me. So if you have a question, go ahead and make sure you type it in or write it down, or and then you could raise your hand when we get to that point in today's presentation. For those of you who are on the YouTube live, feel free to type your question right in and we'll revisit it. So I'm going to start a hard stop here and then move right into the presentation so that way it's easier for me to edit. So give me 5 seconds of silence. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's session of the Science of Successful Living. I am Asar, your weekly facilitator. I pray that you're having a wonderful morning as you have joined us. And for those of you who may be joining us on a later date, wherever time it is, it's called now. Just tune in this morning or wherever you may be and just listen in. Today we're dealing with a topic called change, and I'm dealing with transitions in particular. The reason why I'm asking this or bringing this to the forefront today, as many of you know, that I am a spiritual life coach, and I find that all of us go through this thing called change, but many of us make it successfully through, and some of us don't. We get caught in the middle, in the transition. And so we're going to look at that today, and we're looking at it from the perspective of our beliefs, reshaping our beliefs, and it's necessary that we do it. 2 nights this week, I was nudged awake by the Spirit, and the first night I heard the Spirit calling my name. It kept saying, Asar, Asar. And now I know the Spirit knows that my name, the governmental name I have is Greg Stanton, but it purposely was saying Asar, Asar. And then it gave me a couple other things to address. And the conversation I had with it was, it's kind of difficult to do this because many of the individuals who I'm engaging in the shifting of their belief systems, particularly religious beliefs, are running up against something that's known as cognitive dissonance. And it told me to continue on, and it also told me to just know that it'll work all out. So yesterday I had the opportunity to engage a friend, and during the course of our conversation, she mentioned a book, and strangely enough, I don't think she didn't really know the title. She knew the title, but didn't know who the author was. And I said, that sounds like William Bridges, and he's one of the leaders in managing transitions in the workplace. And so I asked her, and then she looked it up, and it actually was. So the book that I was talking about is right here, William Bridges, Managing Transitions. And it just happened to be on the side of my bed. Now it's been laying on the side of my bed with a couple other books that's right there for, it had to be almost a year and a half. So I just took that as a sign. So this morning when I woke up to kind of put my message together for you, Spirit told me reshaping beliefs, getting past cognitive dissonance. And so that's what we're going to do this morning. We're going to start this conversation around getting past cognitive dissonance that comes with change, that comes with reshaping our beliefs. Now, even though we're talking about reshaping our beliefs, anything we go through has to do with transition. Change happens. You many times you can't stop change, but you have a lot to do with how you accept it, how you move into it, how you move through it. And we're going to look at those distinct phases that you go through. So in this book, William Bridges, he has set up a model to understand the psychological and the emotional aspects of transition. And I use his model in my coaching. And so, because many times when an individual wants to get to another place in life, it's not so easy as taking a straight line. You have to deal with the emotional aspects of that. You have to deal with the grief that comes with change. And that's oftentimes overlooked. Not only is it overlooked, but even in real grief situations like deaths, many people have a difficult time moving through the change of what appears to be death, the finality of the physical form that's over. And it causes a lot of people to get stuck. A lot of people get stuck in the past. A lot of people feel as though they've made headway only to be taken aback, because transition and change happens. Transition is a thing that is gradual. You may make some headway, then you may find yourself falling back, because you got to deal with all the unpacking of the memories and all the things that come with that. So that's something you want to familiarize yourself with, and you need some assistance. If somebody's going through grief, if you're going through your loss of job or loss of any relationship, all of this has to do with change. The relationship is over right now. The moment he says or she says it's over. But for you, the person who is being cut off or the person that's being left, oftentimes you realize it's over, but getting through it, not getting over it. And it's difficult if you think you're going to get over it. But if you embrace, I have to get through it, then you find yourself being much more successful. So when we talk about this concept of transition and change, I want to put this in context of Moses. It was akin to the journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. If you get the chance, you can read Exodus chapter 12 through, and you will find the story of them moving from the place of familiarity, given a promise to go into the Promised Land, but they couldn't get in. They went, they looked, they saw, but they couldn't get in because of the mindset they had. They were accustomed to individuals doing something for them. They were accustomed to the familiarity of what has been. And that's the story for many of people who have African descent. We are still stuck on old stories. We're still revisiting the distant past and the recent past. And we're not really embracing the change has come. And so change has come, but we're not inside of the conversation of transformation, of transitioning. And we want to begin to do that. And this morning's conversation is around the idea of our current beliefs need to be reshaped. The vast majority of those who engage me are of the Christian path. And so I speak specifically to that. There's others who are part of other traditional religious paths, but they're saying that it's not working anymore. Well, change has come. We're moving from the Piscean age, which was heavily religious, and we're overlaid right now, moving into the age of Aquarius, which is more liberating and is more spiritually driven. So we have to understand that there's a shift going on, but many people can't make it through the shift. They get trampled in the shift. They get lost in the shift. But shift happens, and we have to learn how to work through it. So this concept of reshaping beliefs and its relevance to our personal development, such as Moses' journey, again, is a good illustration. The significance of reshaping the beliefs as he led the Israelites from the slavery to freedom, from the old to the new, a transformation that required a profound shift in their beliefs and identity. You know, the story that they couldn't go over, and they couldn't go over because of unbelief. They couldn't go over because their mindset was such that they weren't ready. So sometimes source allows situations, it'll show you something that's available to you, and then it gives you an opportunity to see where you are. Are you really ready for the change? Because you can move into a new place but still have an old attitude, an old mentality, and you really are not able to actualize fully in the new place because you're still in the old place. You know, sometimes people are right with you, but their minds are somewhere else. And so we have to learn to move through the phases and get into this place of the promise. So I remind you of that. That's important. Like what I wear on my neck here, you see, many of you see that I wear a scarab beetle. Not only do I wear it around my neck, but I have one on my pinky finger. And the scarab beetle represents transition. It represents movement. It represents the sun being pushed across from the east to the west, and when it gets to the west, the dying. And transition and transformation is about moving from through the day and then dealing with the darkness of the night and rising into a new day. We're prepared to deal with the day that comes before you. So we all are going through transition. Some of us are stuck. Some of us are moving through it. So when you look at this idea of reshaping our beliefs, there's three things you first have to go through. The first phase of reshaping your beliefs is identifying what it is that you must let go of. You must let go of old beliefs. For many of us who stand inside of traditional Christianity, we have had a difficult time letting it go and moving into the new and transforming from the old to the new. We keep going back, we keep vacillating because we're still in the wilderness. A comprehensive exploration of the ending phase in the Moses story. The ending phase is when the Israelites had let go of their beliefs in a life of enslavement or a life of having to be provided for by a system, the Egyptian or the Kemetic system, which had become familiar. But at that point, it became oppressive. It became oppressive in the last 40 years of their 400 stay there because the indigenous Africans who opened the doors for them were no longer in power. But things happen for a reason. And so sometimes things are going well for you, but then they begin to break down. The thing that was a blessing, now it becomes a ongoing lesson because perhaps source is saying it's time to move, it's time to leave. There's not many of us who are sensitive to the spirit when we're in a situation that we enjoy, that we everything is working for us. We don't move away from it. And so sometimes things have to begin to fall apart, break down until you finally get to the point where you say, okay, this is over. I must move through it. Even though something can be over and we get into something new, but if you never successfully navigate that middle phase, which we're going to talk about, you really are not prepared to embrace the fullness of the possibility. So recognizing, acknowledging your beliefs that hinder your personal growth is key. You got to do the work. It took the plagues, it took the hardships in Exodus chapter 11, 7 through 11, for the Israelites to really recognize that their belief in the stability and the comfort of Egypt was holding them from going forward, from being their personal best, from experiencing that which source desire for them to experience. And many of us have beliefs that get in the way of our spiritual expansion, and we must begin to address that. Strategies for releasing and letting go of outdated beliefs must be obtained. The parting of the Red Sea, we find in Exodus 14, it symbolizes the breaking free from old beliefs, the parting of the beliefs. Moses' leadership helped them overcome the resistance and the fear. It would symbolize you could stay on one side with old thoughts and old beliefs, or you can go to the other side that represents new thoughts, new possibilities, but you must go through the middle. You must trust that with the parting of the Red Sea, I can make it through. That's important. So when we talk about letting go of old beliefs, we have to deal with coping with the emotional challenges that come with the resistance that may arise. Yes, part of change, inside of change is the transition, and a part of transition is the emotion. Change always brings an emotional response. Sometimes it's a good, sometimes it's bad, but it has to do with loss. It has to do with grief. Anytime there's a change, there is a loss. Anytime there's a change, there is a level of grief. Many times we overlook this, but we must begin to deal with the emotional aspects of the change, the emotional aspect of letting go of what you're so familiar with. In this case, many of the tenets, many of the beliefs that you have in regards to Christianity, you got to let them go. You got to expand them. And so that's a difficult thing. And we're going to look at why it's difficult in this next phase. So you have an ending. You must have a strong ending. Okay. um Many times we don't have strong endings because we vacillate. We still leave a door. We're still looking back, you know. And when you look back, you get preserved in that state. We can look at the story of Lot and his wife. She looked back, okay. Not just look, but she didn't glance. She looked back and she became fixated. She began to conjure up the memories of what was. And so you have to begin to know, you must begin to, as you leave, you must understand, when am I leaving? And just because you're leaving doesn't mean there needs to be a joy. You can express the sadness. You can express the fear. You can express the concern with going from the unfamiliar, going from the familiar to the unfamiliar. Most of us have a difficult time with change, have a difficult time with new thoughts, with new things, because we are familiar and we have a program that we run. And so we must get in this conversation of change starts with an ending. Got to have an old ending before you can have a new beginning. But before you move into that new beginning, there's a phase called the exploration phase, or we find that William Bridges calls it the neutral phase. Okay, in-depth discussion of the neutral zone has to be had. That's why it's important, if you're going through a significant life change, sometimes you might want to engage a coach that can assist you through that. And I say a coach because when I say a counselor or a therapist, that denotes that there's some level of mental disorder. Now, if you don't go through the coaching process, you can ultimately, because of change, have a mental disorder as a result of not dealing with the emotions of change. So um, we must become familiar with this neutral zone. The neutral zone is like unto the period of the wilderness. Now, they spent 40 years because of disbelief, unbelief. They had the ability to go in. You remember when the spies, these were the seasoned men of the community. They went in, source told them to go look and see. And they went and they looked and they saw that it was a land flowing with milk and honey. It was a land, it was a walled city, it was a place to be inhabited. But the but entered into their conjecture of but, their limitations. And many times source has shown you the possibility, but you limit it because you look at as a human being versus being a divine spiritual being that's connected to source. You look at it as an individual, as a human being, and it appears to be impossible. But you need to know that your relationship with source makes everything you can say I'm possible. Impossible for the human becomes I'm possible for the divine spiritual beings such as you and I. And so they had not gotten to that. So they ended up wandering in the wilderness 40 years because some of them had to die. And some of us, some individuals will die in traditional Christianity, traditional Judaism, traditional Islam, because they're unwilling to expand their beliefs. And sometimes the expanding of the belief is really carving down, taking off the adulterants, taking things back to its beginning. That's why I have spent a lot of time really drilling this thing back to the beginning. moving beyond the giving of the traditional system, getting back to where it came from, and that was a wonderful experience. But even in doing so, I had to be able to embrace the change that comes with that and the transitions of going from thinking and doing things a old way to thinking and doing things in a new way. So the children of Israel had to, some of them didn't make it in. Matter of fact, anyone who was under the age of 21, over the age of 21, stayed in the wilderness until they died up. So the individual who was 21 when they could have entered into the promised land was 61 or 60 when they actually got to move into the promised land, because it took a whole generation to die. And sometimes I'm looking at, even with the state that we're in today, does another generation have to die before we enter in? Well, if there's some true change agents in the land that's able to come and bring this message in a way that assists people not only in accepting the change but embracing the work of transition, that's where we got to really begin to put our efforts in. And so oftentimes I'm told by individuals who are conscious, why don't you just drop all of that? I can't drop all of this because I have had some very real experiences. I was listening to a brother on YouTube not too long ago, and he was coming against some of the things like faith healing and people having experiences with speaking in tongues. Well, most people who are listening to him don't know that he was not of a Protestant faith that believed in those things. So if you don't believe in healing, if you don't believe in messages of prosperity, if you don't believe in these things, you can't receive them. But just because you don't believe in something, don't give you the power, the authority to discount what people believe in and they see it working. I always say, if it works, keep working. If it don't work, try something different. So the most powerful thing any of us has is a belief. That's why Scripture says that Jesus said, be it according to your belief. And if your belief system isn't working for you, then all you have to do is change it. Now, many people change their beliefs, but they don't go through the stage that's necessary to transition. You got to change the program. You just can't have it in your head. It has to be in the subconscious system. So when we talk about this middle phase, it's that phase where Moses facilitated the exploration by the leaders. He's challenged them, like the flood, the water, forcing them to question their dependence on Egypt. Question your dependence on God. Question your trust in God. The importance of self-reflection during this time, this transitional period, which is called, can also be called the wilderness, is the Israelites had time to reflect, self-reflection, introspection, consider their new identity as a free nation with a new unique purpose. And so you have to begin to do that too. You have to reflect on old things have passed away. Behold, all things have the potential to be new. Now that's important. Sometimes you seek alternative viewpoints and the values that better align with your current needs. Moses' guidance was in seeking sources direction through the 10 Commandments. He gave them 10 guiding principles, even though many of us don't know that those 10 guiding principles came from what was known as the 42, not negative confessions, but the 42 affirmations. You would, instead it says, thou shalt not, it was I will. So you have to change from what you won't do to focusing on what you will do, what lends itself to you being this new person. Now, while you're in the exploration phase or the middle phase or the what I like to call the wilderness, you're going to bump up against what is known as cognitive dissonance. Now, many people have heard this term. People throw it around loosely, but cognitive dissonance is a psychological theory that's developed by this guy by the name of Leon Festinger back in 1957. So it's a relatively new term. Well, it's not, it's 60 years old. It refers to the discomfort or the tension that arises when an individual holds two contradictory beliefs, like in the old and the new, or attitudes or values, or when your actions don't align with your beliefs. And many times we have beliefs, but our actions don't line up with them. Even in the old church, we believed in things like we believed in tithing, but we didn't tithe. And that presented cognitive dissonance. We believed in God provides all our needs, but we didn't trust. And so that's a level of cognitive dissonance. This dissonance, it creates a state of psychological discomfort. And if it's not addressed, you're not only going to have psychological discomfort, but you ultimately will have psychological disorder or mental disorder. Okay, so this psychological discomfort motivates individuals to reduce the inconsistency by changing their beliefs, attitudes, or behavior, or just saying forget it and going back. Like sometimes people will say, you know what, this is too much work. I'm just gonna go back. I'm just going to. I wish we were better when we were there. I was better when I was in a relationship, even though it was not representing my highest and greatest good. And many people, I see that when I was doing relationship coaching, many people choose to stay in situations that don't represent their highest and greatest good solely because they didn't want to be alone, solely because they weren't ready to deal with the uncomfortableness of being alone with themselves. So they keep going back. How's that working for you? So in the context of this book, William Bridges, his model of change, cognitive dissonance is most likely to show up when you're in this middle phase, when you're in the neutral zone. It's, in this phase, it shows up. And here's why it shows up. You have contradictory beliefs. In the neutral zone, individuals are in a state of transition. You're moving away from an old belief or old situation or situation that is over and exploring a new one. This period often involves questioning your long-held beliefs, your values, that no longer serve you. As they confront the contradictory beliefs, the old versus the new, cognitive dissonance arises. Uncertainty and ambiguity is another thing you must deal with when you are changing your belief system. The uncertainty and the ambiguity that comes with that. The neutral zone is characterized by uncertainty, ambiguity. Okay, individuals may feel torn between old beliefs, which provides a sense of security, and the new belief they are trying to embrace, because it looks like a new possibility. And what I've been doing isn't working. I need to get out of this. But you can see the possibility, but you're not willing to go through the transition that's necessary. What we find with this uncertainty, it can intensify what we call cognitive dissonance. Another reason people go through it and have this cognitive dissonance is their resistance to change. Change happens and you can't do anything about it. It keeps coming. The dinosaurs resisted change, but change came. Change will kill you. Okay. You no longer become relevant. People often resist change, and this resistance can stem from, again, cognitive dissonance. They may be uncomfortable or comfortable with your old beliefs and restraints that they give, and so they stay with them instead of adopting new ones because it challenges your existing worldview. It's necessary for you to let go of the way of you think. So a lot of times people move into this new thought thinking or positive thinking, but they don't really identify their core beliefs. And if your core beliefs, that's your core beliefs that's in your program, are not addressed, it gets in the way. And then you begin to get frustrated. Then you say, it don't work. But it does work if you work it properly. Another thing, people stay with the old because they're striving for consistency. They're striving for familiarity. Humans, all of us in our human state, have a natural tendency to seek consistency in our thoughts, in our beliefs, and our actions. When faced with cognitive dissonance, individuals, you and I, we're motivated to resolve the inconsistency by either adapting their beliefs to the align with the actions or changing their actions to align with their beliefs. So during the neutral zone, this wilderness period we all have to go through, you may experience cognitive dissonance as you grapple with the discomfort of letting go of the old beliefs while embracing the new ones. And that's the thing that so many people that I run into that have left the church, then they're in the backyard, they're retooling, they're they are stuck in transition called cognitive dissonance. So we have to deal with this internal conflict. It can be a very powerful catalyst for your personal growth and transformation as it prompts you to confront, to resolve the inconsistencies of your belief system. You just no longer can hold on to things because grandmama did it or great grandmama did it or because somebody you esteem highly is still doing it. You know, you got to be willing to expand beyond the comfortable, expand beyond the familiarity. That's why, and you look in the Bible, they lived in tents instead of stone houses, because metaphorically, source is saying it wants you always to be able to move from what you think you know to that which you should grow into. Okay, so ultimately leading to when you're dealing with these inconsistency, it will ultimately lead to you aligning with beliefs and behaviors that are consistent. So you got that ending phase, then you have the middle phase, and I'm not going deeply into the phases, but I'm just want to introduce you. I want to help some of you understand why you are feeling hesitant to let go. And some of it is based on fear. The old model of Christianity in particular stuck you with fear that if you question, because if you went in a different way, that you were going to bust the bottom out of hell and you'll wake up in hell. You know, all of those things that were stories that were concocted to support the religious belief system. But I ask, how's that working for you? You know, in the reality, you still do what you want to do. You still, you know, if there's a 10 commandments, you still are breaking them. You may be cohabitating, you may be sexing somebody up, you may be overindulging, all the things that religious system says you shouldn't do, but you're doing them. Then you have another level of cognitive dissonance. So I'm saying you got to begin to use your head. You got to begin to listen to the Spirit. The Spirit will nudge you, but it says because of the traditions that you've been given, it makes the nudging of no effect. Because of the traditions of men, it makes the power of the word of no effect. So I'm not out here to convince, persuade, cajole individuals who are happy with being in the old or being in the wilderness, but change is coming. Winter will turn to spring. Spring will turn to summer. Summer will turn to fall. Come on now. So you got to be able to adjust through the seasons, or you get caught in a situation where you're not properly prepared and it could kill you. Now, when we talk about integrating of your new beliefs, that's moving into the promised land. You get over into this place and you begin to unpack. You don't have to wait to unpack them all, but you come to the realization that I'm going into the new, but I'm going to encounter things as I unpack. It's like moving into a new house. You take everything from the old house. When you get to the new house, you have to start unpacking. And in the new house, you start unpacking and say, do I need this? Okay. I no longer need this. And you let go of things. You give things away, because I can guarantee you there's still people who are stuck in the old and can use your rotary phone or can use your pager, but move into the new. So when we look at a detailed look of the beginning phase, the entry into the promised land by Joshua, notice Moses and his crew couldn't go. And so as a leader, that's my frustration, that I want to go in. And so I cannot force you in, but I'm not going to stop my progression only to hope that you will catch up with me. Watch me, follow me, not follow me as a person you need to ascribe to as your personal guru, but I'm saying I lead the way by living the way. I'm not perfect in no way, but I understand the principles and I practice them. And when I come up short in the principles, I'm the first one to say it didn't work because I didn't work it properly. Okay, so I want you to know that as you follow me, as you look at my life, you're going to see me go through some ups, some downs, some ins and outs. And some of the ups and downs and ins and outs I go through is not because I've done anything wrong, but because Source knows I have the ability to get through it. And while you're watching me, you're learning, oh, if you do this, that's what you're going to get. And then when you correct it, like Greg made the correction, or Sar made the correction, and look what he's getting. So I want you to know this stuff works if you work it. The old system says sickness and disease is part of the human condition. The new system, the kingdom system, says that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. It says that if that same power that raised Jesus from the dead dwells in me, it shall quicken my mortal body. So we must understand that we cannot hang out with old thinkers to get new processes. And you got to be careful. Some who are not willing to cross the sea, some who are not willing to take the transitional journey will try to convince you. People love misery, love company. People want you, nobody want to be stuck in a state by themselves. So no, they're not speaking to you to represent your highest and greatest good. They want to maintain their numbers inside of their belief system. So we must know that new beginning phases is important, that you go into the new beginning where the Israelites had to fully embrace their new beliefs and identity as a chosen people. You are a royal priesthood. Come on now, you're a king and a priest. Come on, that's what we all are. We are divinely created to have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and every creep that creeps into every creeping thing that creeps on the face of the earth. Now, that really means that you control your world. If everybody cultivated and controlled their world, it'll be a better world. Come on. So stop trying to control somebody else's world. Don't let people even control your world. You have to take responsibility. You must cultivate the world in which you desire to live in. Now, how do we embrace and integrate the new, more beneficial beliefs? So we find that Joshua, which was Moses' successor, guided the Israelites in embracing new beliefs, even though these are stories. This is not, none of this really happened in the sense of the biblical stories. But when you look at the story of Moses, that really did happen, but his name was not Moses. His name was Akhenaten. His son was Tutankhaten, King Tut. When you really understand the truth of that historical event, they went to a place called Amana. They crossed over. They moved into a new place. And that's something your church don't tell you about, because now if you align Moses with his true character of Akhenaten, then you have to say how much more of our belief system is steeped in the ancient wisdom of our ancestors. But we're getting there. We're going back. We're reclaiming. We're redigging the wells of old. And some of the things that happened historically in the ancient times of our ancestors, they also had their stories. So just because they have a story does not mean it was an actuality. But the thing that we have to look for, and I'm kind of digressing here to say this, you must learn to use stories and messengers for the messages they bring and the stories that give you a deeper insight to something. So we find here that the Israelites incorporated their newfound beliefs into their daily lives. So you have to work this thing daily. It's not something in an old system you can do it on Wednesday and you can do it on Sunday. But in this system, you rest in it, you live in it, you steep your thoughts in it, living according to sources, divine principles, and laws. The significance of seeking support while you're going through transition. You can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. You need somebody who has come down that path, and some things you don't have to learn by trial and error. Okay, you don't have enough time to learn by trial and error. Okay, so throughout the journey, when you look at the Israelites, they relied on Moses, and later they relied on Joshua. Forgotten. So you have to find someone until you are mature enough to go your way that you can come alongside of. So there's a deception in the world right now because you can get all sorts of information just by clicking, just by prompting, but information doesn't change you. You must be able to assimilate. You must be able to understand. You must be able to, okay, you could Google something, but if you don't know history, how do you know whether or not what you are reading is correct? What percentage of that is truth? And so you do need leaders. You do need teachers. The word of God says, though you have 10,000 instructors, you have not many fathers. I was recently on a call, and there was a conversation going on a thread, and I had to give a strong response. And this is a community, a church that I teach at, and they gave me some pushback, and I told them, remove me from this feed if y'all want to feed on sickness and disease. If you want to feed on propaganda about, a new disease strain is coming, I don't need to hear that, because what you allow to float over into your mind and you begin to cultivate those things, as a man thinks, so is. And they pushed back, and I had to say, look, as the father in the faith, and then somebody had the audacity to say, you ain't my spiritual father. Okay, that you just made your position known to me. Okay, so I know who I am. I know what I'm called to do, and I'm going to stand in it regardless of whether or not individuals accept it. And you have to do the same thing too. So during that middle phase, you are letting go of some things, unpacking some things. When you get over into the new, you need people to help you integrate living in this new thing. So let me conclude this morning. The three phases of the process. Let me see, somebody said, okay, the three, no, I appreciate that, but that was from somebody, even though I appeared to have digressed. Please allow me the opportunity to do that, because there's somebody on this call that needs that. That's why the Spirit sometimes pull me in a direction, because somebody is at that place where they need that critical information in order to help them to stay the course. So I appreciate those who stay with me when I appear to be digressing off the path, but I'm back on the path, and know that's for somebody who's coming behind you, coming behind me, don't know the things that we already know. So as a teacher, I got to bring the whole class along. Now, if I see that I'm being dragged because some people are not getting it, then I'll set up some other times for that, but I appreciate that. So in summary, Moses' journey from Egypt to the promised land serves as a powerful example of how endings, neutral zones, and new beginnings phases can lead to what we call a profound belief reshaping and personal transformation, because that's what it's really all about. I want to emphasize that Moses' story also reminds us that belief reshaping is a challenging and lengthy process. Okay, it's challenging to let go of what your mama had, your grandmama had, and even for what you may have had as a spiritual leader. But if you don't let go, then you are not a vessel that can be poured into with the new wine. You can't pour new wine as in the old wineskins. They will burst. Come on. Source will not give you new information that you can't run, that you won't use. Okay. So Moses' story reminds us that that belief reshaping is a challenging and lengthy process, requires our patience and self-compassion for those who are in this transformation as a group. You got to have compassion for those who are not where you are. Okay, but if they're in the conversation, they're coming. Okay, so I want to encourage you to seek support and resources to help you navigate changing your belief system. Like the Israelites, under Moses' leadership, individuals can benefit from seeking guidance. They sought guidance, support as they navigated their journey, and you're going to have to do the same also. So if you want to know more about getting some assistance with the transitions you're dealing with, you can go to the website, which is Solutions, SOUL, solutionsforliving.com. And there you'll find how to get a complimentary session with me, and we'll go from there. So before we go into questions and aha moments. I want to take this moment, like I do every week, to allow the principle of circulation. I believe this ministry, my message has had and have value. And because it has value to you, many of you want to support and continue to support the work. And the way you can do that is just by, if you're on Cash App or PayPal and somebody type this in for me, you can just use this number for Cash App and PayPal. That's 708-368 1076 708-368 1076. Can I get someone to type that in for me into the chat on the Zoom, and someone to type it in for me into the YouTube chat? Again, it's 708-368-1076. Or if you want to give by way of other means, if you go to my website, oasisspiritualcenter.com, go to the giving tab, and you can find that method that allows you to transmute that which you have in your possession into the coffers of the ministry. And I appreciate it. So as we go into the questioning session, I want to start first by having our affirmation of giving. So right where you are, take in your mind's eye that which you want to transmute from where you are to the ministry. I want you to identify that you have found value here. If you haven't found value, you don't have to participate in this. But I believe all who are under my sound of my voice has found value, will find value. So I want you to say, in my hand and in my mind, I hold my seed. I'll sow my seed, not for greed, but I sow my seed in alignment with principles and practices, the law of sow and reap, the law of circulation. So as I release this, I relinquish all rights and responsibility. I pray that wisdom is on the other end, that it will operate according to spiritual matters. And now I embrace that which comes forth, that is the manifestation in my life. Abundance flows, and so it is. Amen. Thank you for participating this morning. Well, I want to open up for questions, and I want to remind you that every Sunday evening I put together the playback, and I send out an email. So I'll send it out this evening. For those who are in the class, you'll get the advance. Those who already signed up, you get the advance, but everybody else will get it at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I want to look here, see if we got any questions, any responses. I don't see any hands up, so that tells me that everybody got the entire message. Let me look over here in the YouTube, see if I can see what's happening here. Okay, I got a few people on the YouTube channel. Let us know. Okay. Do you think expanded metaphysical, Jacqueline? Here's a question from Jacqueline. Do you think expanded metaphysical consciousness can take place while still being a member of a physical Protestant church? Many times in my AME church now. Okay. So yes, transformation can start where you are. But then you may hit a place of really uncomfortable that you don't fit there no more. But you got to be careful, because the more you are engaging in this expanded conversation that goes beyond what the beliefs are of that particular church, then you're going to have those who will be persuading you to stay, or saying that the thoughts that you're holding, the things that you're thinking are not consistent with, and if you don't want to stay here, you will be ostracized. So you'll know when it's time to go. Sometimes you have to go to grow, because if you even look at the story of Abraham, he was told to get thee away from your family, from your kindred, from the place of familiarity, because you can't get a new thing in an old place. Know this, everybody, listen to me. Your destiny is always tied to a destination. What you desire to do, be, or have won't take place right where you are. Mentally, you got to change. Ultimately, you may have to make a physical change also. Okay, Jacqueline said, thank you. As I kept listening, you answered my question. Awesome. Great. Thank you, Jacqueline, for that question. Now, let me look over here. I don't see any hands. And so we're going to get ready to wrap up this morning. And I want to encourage you all when you come out here at the Science of Successful Living, it's not just about spewing information. So I do make space for questions. If you don't want to put your question in either one of the feeds, and if you have my phone number or the phone number to the ministry, you could text them and I'll address it. Now, if there's something I'm not knowledgeable or I don't feel that I could completely address, I'll let you all know. I'm not one of those teachers that say he knows it all, but I'm experiencing it all. Okay. So I walk by faith, not by sight. I'm an experiential person. So I'm not going to tell you to do something that I have not explored myself. I'm a spiritual scientist. Okay, good. So I appreciate you all showing up this morning. I will get this together, tighten it up. I will get rid of the glitches and I'll package it and it'll be available for your review within the next 24 hours. So we're going to prepare ourselves to leave this morning. We're going to leave with the same song that we came in on this morning to support this message. So the choir this morning is singing Everything Must Change. And the lead is one and only George Benson. Have a wonderful day. Know that everything is changing. Now, will you make the transition that's necessary to embrace the fullness of the change? Peace out. Have a wonderful day.
Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. No, no. Everyone must change. Nothing stays the same. Young become the old. Mysteries to unfold. 'Cause that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are not many things in life you can be sure of. Except rain comes from the clouds and sun lights up the sky and hummingbirds do fly. Turns to spring, wounded heart will heal. Yes, it will. Never much too soon. Everything must change. The young become the old. Mysteries do unfold. 'Cause that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are not many things in life you can be sure of. Except rain falls from the clouds and sunlight